Hey everybody, Omar here, the Knife Shark Guy, and I am back with another knife review for you today. And today we're going to be reviewing my 9th high-end custom piece in my collection. This one is really a doozy. I don't even know if people even use that word anymore, but this one is really something else. This is the knife that I have chosen to purchase as my 9th piece. I purchased it at the Epicurean Edge, which you can check those guys out again at thebladegallery.com. I was actually at the store yesterday looking at all the fun choices that they had there, and my good buddy Jeff, you could check him out in his Instagram at, I believe it's Steelclad, at Steelclad K. That's what he calls himself. And he actually brought this out. There were like a bunch of other custom knives, and I was on the fence, and then he brought this one out simply because he knew what I liked. He knew that I liked, this style of custom. So he pulled this thing out, and, my eyes were like bugging out, and, I was like salivating all over it, and I was just in pain because this is not a cheap knife to purchase, and, Jeff understood that, so... But this is what I had walked away with. On another note, the last video that I did of the Benchmade Anthem, unfortunately, guys, I had to return that in order to afford this piece. I just simply could not afford both knives. It's a sad fact, but I'm going to have to probably go back at some other time and pick up the Benchmade Anthem, which was my last video. But at least we have the video of the Benchmade Anthem for posterity. In any case, let's go and get on with this particular knife. This is from a knife maker that I have seen quite often, but I've never actually owned any of his knives. First thing I want to say is this is what is called a, I guess it's a full dress piece. In other words, every part of this knife is covered with some kind of detail that was meticulously and well thought out by the knife maker to put on this particular piece. So let's go ahead and go over this knife. I don't have any specs for you at this time, unfortunately, but I can try and just do the best that I can with this video as far as size and all of that. So to answer your question as to basically the size of the knife, let's go ahead and do some size comparisons so that at least we can do that, get that out of the way. And again, I'm sorry I don't have very many knives to compare it to that you guys will be familiar with, and I do apologize for that. So to begin with, let's go ahead and start with the Spyderco Swish Bowie. So here's the Spyderco Swish Bowie. Mine has been anodized, by the way, anodized in blue and bronze. All right, I mean, you can check out that video. I already did one on the anodization of this. So if you guys are familiar with this knife, it normally comes in stone-washed. So there's the Spyderco Swish Bowie. And see what else I've got. Another knife that you guys are familiar with, the Sebenza 21. So there you have it. Sebenza 21. And how about the large Sebenza 21 to compare it to? So because I don't have any specs for it, at least you can get an idea what the size is. So it's a medium-sized knife. I'm guessing the blade length for this knife is about 3.2 inches, I'm going to say. The overall size of this knife is around 8 inches. So unfortunately for right now, that's the best I can do on the specs. So again, I do apologize for that. So let's go ahead and get a closer look at this. So as I've said before, this knife is not cheap. Let's take a look at some of the details on this knife and who it's made by. So the knife is made by a knife maker from South Africa. His name is Herucus Bloomrus, and you can check out his name right there on the blade. He's from South Africa. He's been making knives for quite a while, so he's a fairly famous knife maker in South Africa, so obviously the prices for his knives are going to jump up there. As far as what I paid for this knife, I really don't want to say, but it is, like I said, it's not cheap. So let's go ahead and take a look at the materials on this knife. It is loaded with a lot of material on it, as you can see. So the bolster has what's called Damascus, blue Damascus bolster on it. Really very pretty. The bottom half of the handle has black marbled carbon fiber, which is no stranger to the custom world. On the back of the knife, we have a blue titanium pocket clip with a ceramic ball. And the details don't end there, guys. Let's move on to the back of the knife. As you can see, the back of the knife has file work done on there. Really amazing file work. This is done by hand, guys. All done completely by hand, made by one guy. And it's just an amazing work of engineering artistry, I want to say, as my very good friend Mike Sever has said. That's what he calls knives. So this knife actually has a black and silver Damascus backspacer, and the blade is also, I'm sorry, Damasteel, my mistake, and the blade is also done in Damasteel. The knife runs on bearings, and it runs on ceramic bearings. Check out that action. Very smooth, very, very even flow with the action. You're not going to see knives that do that in production. It's just not going to happen. And it's the ceramic bearings that help. Unlike steel ball bearings where you have to oil them, ceramic bearings do not need to be oiled. You can actually run them dry, and they'll have this effect. Depending on, of course, the weight of the blade, the materials that the bottom half of the knife is made of, because weight adds a lot to the action on the knife as well. It's also got blue titanium scales on it. And just wanted to give you a good quick overview of the full knife right there. I mean, this guy is just absolutely gorgeous all the way around. I've never seen a blade where the Damascus, or the Damasteel is actually, you can see it all the way through, all the way around, even up to the top of it. It's just amazing, absolutely amazing. And the backspacer is the same way. So there's a lot of detail on this, and it's called the full dress piece because basically the person that made the knife is looking to create a tool. Make sure that the piece still resembles a tool and still is a tool, but now, you know, with all the added materials onto it, you can see that it's actually, you know, a mechanical work of art is what it is. And that is really what attracts a lot of us to custom knives. We want to see what materials were put together by the knife maker that made it. You can also get an impression of what the knife maker's personality is like to some degree. But basically what we're getting is actually the knife maker himself on a knife. And that's what makes custom knives so personal. They make them, you know, they make it to the point where you're actually maybe kind of getting a piece of the knife maker's personality, because let's not forget, when it comes to production knives, you have to remember that those things, the details on a production knife, for example, like the Spyderco Swiss Bowie here, which is a really great production piece. This knife is roughly right around $270 for this piece. It's got the action. You know, it doesn't have a lot of details, but it does have the action. It's got the steel. It's got the nice, smooth action on it. Pretty much everything that you would want in a fantastic working tool. But, you know, and it's got a nice backspacer on it, but it stops there. And the reason it stops there is because they don't really have the time to put all the details that you see on a knife like this on a piece like this, because the price of it would jump all the way up. And don't forget, these knives are made by machine. They, you know, basically they approach the company that's making this knife or wants a new knife made. They approach a knife designer. The knife designer comes up with, I'm guessing, probably what he would want the knife to actually look like. Probably to resemble the original knife that he had intended in his head if he were to make it by himself on his own without the help of a production company. So basically, the production company is trying to get him to make the knife the way he would want to make it, within the limitations of what the company requires to be done on a machine. So you have to understand that they make hundreds of these knives. A certain set number of these knives are actually contracted to be made right after the designer makes the knife. Then they pump them out by machine, the same consistency. Hopefully it has the same consistent action all the way through on the knife. To produce, you know, the desired effect that the maker had actually intended. Because you have to keep in mind that the knife maker is actually not there during the production. He just gives them one knife, and then they try to duplicate that design on a machine that is housed at the company that is contracted to make the knife by the knife maker. And then hopefully they'll come up with something that's just as close to an original piece that the knife maker intended. And that's actually the idea behind the production knife. And it's a great idea, because a lot of people will never be able to afford something like this, or may never even advance in the hobby to get to something like this. And that's completely understandable, because to spend as much money as we spend on these knives, you know, you either have a passion for something like this and you don't think about the money all that much, which I don't think is actually true, because I still think about the money. I just still do it. But in any case, the difference between a production piece and this is that you now own something that was completely made by hand, not by a machine. So that's the big attraction, and you get all these wonderful little details that are put on the knife. It is just absolutely fantastic. I mean, the action on it is just crazy as compared to, say, a production knife, which is fantastic, right? I mean, but see, it doesn't close the same way. I mean, obviously, this knife runs on washers and this knife runs on ball bearings, but still, you know, the point never gets lost that this is a production knife, and it does have its limitations as far as what you're looking for in the feel, in the action, and in the use. Another big difference is you're probably more likely to be able to take this knife and have it hard use. I mean, probably wouldn't bother you to take a knife like this and use it as hard use, you know, even though it did cost you some money. I mean, $270 is nothing to sneeze at for a production piece like this. But when you're dealing with something like this, yes, it's still a knife, and yes, you're going to be using it. You're probably going to be less hardened to use it for hard use than you would, say, this. It's just the way it goes. But basically, once you jump into a custom piece, you're actually asking yourself, have I had my fill of production knives? Am I looking for something more? And you have to make a decision whether you're going to continue on with the production knives. And many people have done that, or maybe begin to step into something like this, you don't necessarily want to call yourself a knife snob, and you're not a knife snob. I don't think anyone that's into custom knives is a knife snob, because we still, I mean, I still own this. I still love it. I still use it on an occasion, occasionally, and I do love this knife. It's a production knife, so it doesn't make you a knife snob. But what happens is you actually get used to better and better and better. And it's just, unfortunately, that's just what happens. And you find yourself buying less and less of these. I mean, even if they're going to make, say, like 100 of them, it may not interest you anymore. But just because you've jumped into something like this. And custom knives are not for everybody. So, but if we take a look at this knife, I mean, it is just absolutely beautiful. There's a lot more things that, that your eye can pay attention to when you're looking into getting a knife. So this now obviously bypasses a cutting tool, right? It's still a tool. I mean, you're still going to use it. I mean, I would imagine someone to be a fool to pay as much money as they have for something like this and not want to use it. And, when you're getting custom knives, the idea is you're going to use the knife, not abuse it. Because what happens with custom knives, and a lot of people do it, I know I do it. There was actually on Instagram, I don't know who did it, but there was a chart on Instagram, and I laughed at it. I just couldn't, I was like, oh my God, that's me. He had this big gigantic pie, and on the pie he had like, I think 8% using knife, and then the rest of the pie chart was playing with the knife, which is pretty much what it is, right? Because most of us are hobbyists. Most of us do not work in construction. We do not work in an occupation where we would be using a knife every day for hard use. I would assume, and I'm probably wrong, but I would assume that most guys would probably go and shoot for something like this if they're going to be using it every day. I think those people get a lot more use out of their knives and probably get more enjoyment out of it. But that's just the way the hobby is. You find something that you like so much, you love looking at it, you love playing with it, you love toying with it, and you'll use it occasionally, which is what I do. But for the most part, you're going to just look at it, admire it, and then move on to the next knife. But that's pretty much what the passion of a hobby like this is. I mean, it's a very expensive hobby, but it's something that, gets all of us as knife people, and we do enjoy it. So, Herucus Bloomrus is the name of the knife maker that made this piece. He's been around for a really, really long time. He's from South Africa. You can check out most of his knives at herucusbloomrus.com. He does some really fantastic work. And every custom knife maker takes the materials that surround them and create something like this, is basically what they do for a living. And then they present it to the buying public and say, hey, this is what I've created. What do you think? And then, of course, you'll either buy the piece or not buy the piece. And that's pretty much what it comes down to. So, really wish I had the specs. I don't really want to go on and on about this knife. But if you're getting into custom, basically what you're looking to do is to get the most for the least amount of money. And, that's not this knife. But if you're, if you want to know the price of this knife, obviously you could go probably check it on bladegallery.com. I just don't want to say, because part of me is kind of ashamed to say that I actually spent this much for it. But I'm not ashamed to buy it, that I bought it, because I do enjoy it. That blue bolster on there is just really shouts out at you, nice and blue, and if it hits the lighting a certain way, it actually turns purple, which I think is really great. But yet, in the regular sunlight, it stays blue, which I think is fantastic. That's one of the things that I love about Damascus material. And And I have to be honest, I'm not all that educated yet in the materials that the knife is made of. In other words, I don't know who invented Damascus. I don't know who invented black marble carbon fiber. All I know is when I see it on a knife and set together in a fashion like this, I gotta have it. I just have to have it. And I think that's probably what most people feel when they purchase a knife of this quality is you put something like this in your pocket and it just makes you feel good for the whole day. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to spend this much money to feel good, but it is kind of nice to know that you've got something special in your pocket that makes you feel great. You know, makes you feel great. So here we have it. I wish I even had the name for this knife, because usually when I do a custom video on a custom piece, I've got the name, I've got the specs and everything, but unfortunately, my buddy Jeff did not give me the Blade Gallery card with all the specs on it and everything, and the Blade Gallery cards that you get at the Epicurean Edge, they look like this. So I do apologize for you guys for not, being as prepared as I normally am when I do knives. But all the knives at the Blade Gallery come with specs like this. Maybe I should have waited to do the video, but maybe I'll do it again. But for right now, I just wanted to show off the knife and talk about customs for a little bit. So I guess that's pretty much what this video is about. You also, when you get a custom, you also get a... not in all cases, I have to say not in all cases, but sometimes you'll get a certificate of authenticity like this that's actually signed by the knife maker and filled out probably by the knife maker as well. So, and it's always nice to have. This is probably one of the main reasons why I would not recommend buying a custom on eBay, because you don't know the people that are selling the knives. I'm not saying that they're dishonest, but we don't know them. And most people on eBay that are selling custom knives, they understand that. So they're kind of hoping that, their personality and their honesty, and most of the people, and when I mean most, I'm going to say like 97% of people on eBay are honest about what they're selling, because they don't want to get in trouble with eBay. eBay's got a reputation for, consistency and making sure no one gets ripped off and that kind of thing. Otherwise, if you're looking to get a piece like this, you got two choices. You can either go to quite a few choices. You could probably go to the Epicurean Edge or BladeGallery.com and purchase one there. In which case, I promote the Blade Gallery all the time because I go there. I know the guys that actually run the store. So I can definitely vouch for them without a problem. Otherwise, maybe, check on Instagram. A lot of people on Instagram are selling knives. You can talk to those people up close in a way that eBay doesn't allow you to. There's also blade forums and things. So if you've had your fill of production knives like the Spyderco Swiss Bowie and all those other knives like that, and you're looking to move up into collecting into something, and you feel that you're ready for that, yeah, definitely look into it. It's definitely worth it. There is one plus, and that is that you'll buy less knives because they're so expensive, right? I mean, when I was into this, I actually started buying these knives like production knives, not every week, but at least I'd buy like 2 or 3 a month. With custom knives, I try to go, okay, I'll buy 1 or 2 a year and just make sure that they're like really the best one that I could find and from that knife maker. And, you pretty much try and stay away from looking at websites and looking at other knives as well. So there you have it. The Herucus Bloomrus, I'm going to call it the Herucus Bloomrus Special that I bought. With Damas steel, blue bolster Damascus, black marble carbon fiber, a blue titanium pocket clip, file worked titanium backspacer with Damas steel backspacer in the middle over there. Wish I had a name for it. I'm going to do a video on this again. I just wanted to show the knife that I have. If you want to see my other custom knives that I own, stay on this channel and check out some of the other ones where I actually have the card, and don't waste your time just talking about how expensive I bought a knife. So go ahead and check those channels out, because those those videos are a lot more informative, you know, regarding custom knives. And of course, you can also check out my last video of the Benchmade Anthem. I think I had a couple of viewers tell me that they actually liked that video, and so I kind of appreciate that. On a personal note, I just want to say hello to all my friends out east. I've been in hiding out here on the West Coast, or in the Northeast, excuse me, in Washington. So I want to say hi to Garrett and Rob and my best friend Tina. I'm really kind of hoping that they would like to come and see me. You know, I want to see them. It's been a while. It's been like 30 years since we've seen each other. All of us are now, we're getting up there in age, and you know, last time we saw each other, we were like in our 20s. So who knows? I'm reaching out to my friends. It's been a long time, and I kind of miss them. I don't know. I'm just feeling like I'm at a milestone, because all I had, you know, I've been, you know, kind of just in hiding, and I don't really, you know, basically I work, come home, and then talk about my custom knives. So, and these knives have actually gotten me through quite a bit. So, in any case, this is Omar, the Knife Shark Guy, signing off. I'll be doing another video on this again, more informative. And then, of course, I'll be doing another video on all my knives, all my custom knives. I'm just going to go over them real quickly so you can see what I have. I won't have to go through the specs or anything. I can just sit there and talk about them and relax, you know, whatever. So this is Omar the Knife Shark Guy signing off, hoping you'll find this piece of sharp art in your collection. Maybe not, because it shouldn't even be in my collection as much as I paid for it. But in any case, thank you for watching, and God bless. And you'll hear from me again. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.